Hello students, I am Isha Mendirata. In today's session, I will be discussing energy band diagrams of PN junction diode and its IV characteristics. Let's start with energy band diagram. So let's see what is an energy band diagram. Now basically what is energy band? Energy band is nothing but group of energy levels, and the three most commonly used energy bands are the valence band, conduction band and the forbidden band, or commonly known as the energy band gap. So energy bands consist of a large number of closely spaced energy levels which exist in crystalline materials. You know what is the difference between two energy levels in an energy band? It is as small as 10 raised to minus 6 electron volt. It is so small. Just change the energy by 10 raised to minus 6 electron volt, the energy band or the energy level, the energy value will change. What is an energy band? It's a collection of individual energy levels of electrons surrounding each atom. This is what an energy band is. You can see in the diagram the three bands or the energy bands which are commonly used are shown in the diagram. The valence band. Now this is an energy band which is formed by grouping of energy levels of valence electrons. What are valence electrons? Valence electrons are the electrons which are present in the outermost orbit of an atom. So if I group all the different energy values of valence electrons, the band formed would be called a valence band. In between them you can see there is a forbidden band or band gap. Now band gap or forbidden band is a band in which practically no electron can stay or no electron can be present. Then what is the use of this band? This band is used in the transition processes. It is used, or you can say it's just a medium for electrons to move from valence to conduction or from conduction to valence. So it just provides a passage. And coming on to conduction band. Now conduction band is an energy band which is formed by grouping the energy levels of free electrons. So by giving energy, if the valence electrons become free, if they are available for conduction, so if I group all such energy values of free electrons, I would be getting the conduction band. And according to the diagram, you can also say that valence is always at a lower energy level as compared to conduction. Why? Because if I want my electron to move into conduction, definitely I would have to give energy, right? So conduction is the highest level, then you have forbidden in between, and then you have the valence band. So this was just a brief about energy bands. Now let us discuss what are p-type and n-type semiconductors. Before we move on to the energy band diagrams, it's important to understand what is a p-type material and what is an n-type material. So if I talk about a p-type material, it is formed if I add trivalent impurities to my semiconductor. Now why is the need of adding impurities to semiconductor? Why we purposefully make it impure? It's to increase the conductivity of semiconductors that impurities are added to it. And these impurities can be of two categories. The first one is known as the trivalent impurity. Some examples of trivalent impurities are boron, aluminium, gallium. What do you mean by trivalent? These impurities have 3 electrons in the outermost orbit. Now if I add such an impurity to a semiconductor, say for example silicon. Now I know that silicon atoms are joined by covalent bonds, sharing of electrons. Silicon has 4 electrons in the outermost orbit and 3 electrons of the impurity atom. So still one space is left, one vacancy is left, which is termed as a hole. Now this trivalent impurity which is added, it will take 1 electron from the semiconductor, and that is the reason it is known as a acceptor impurity. Why is it an acceptor? Because it has only 3 electrons in the outermost orbit, so they can easily accept electrons because they have the 4th space left. Clear? Coming on to n-type semiconductors, so they are formed when pentavalent impurities are added. What are the examples of pentavalent impurities? You have phosphorus, you have arsenic, antimony. Now the word penta means they already have 5 electrons. So what will they do? They will donate 1 free electron to the semiconductor. So in this case, we will have electrons as majority carriers, and such impurities which will give their electron to the semiconductor in which they are added, they are known as the donors or the donor impurities. So this was just a brief idea of how p-type and n-type, what are p-type and n-type materials. Now let's discuss energy band diagrams of p-type and n-type semiconductors individually. Then we'll move on to the topic of p-n junction diode. So let's see what energy band diagram of a p-type semiconductor is. Now we know that p-type semiconductor is formed by addition of trivalent impurities. We know that these trivalent impurities are known as acceptor impurities, and we also know that this p-type material have holes as majority charge carriers. So these three things are clear. Now just look at the diagram here. You can see there is a valence band which is of the semiconductor. Then you have conduction band which is of the semiconductor. You can see that the maximum level of valence band is EV. The minimum level of conduction band is EC. In between them there is a band gap. So I can say band gap EG, it's equal to EC minus EV. Lowest of conduction minus highest of valence band. Is that clear? Then you have a Fermi level in between. What is Fermi level? Fermi level is the energy level which is occupied, the maximum occupied energy level at absolute zero is known as Fermi level. For semiconductors, the Fermi level is anywhere between in between the band gap. And also the diagram shows that there is acceptor. You can see the acceptor energy level which is close to valence band. Acceptor level is of the impurity. The valence and conduction are of the semiconductor material. And just have a look at the diagram. The Fermi level is comparatively near to the valence band. Is that clear? Now let's discuss about n-type semiconductor. So in this case, n-type semiconductor, we know that n-type semiconductor is formed by addition of pentavalent impurities. These impurities are known as the donor impurities because they are going to give away their electrons, and we know that electrons are majority charge carriers. So in the diagram you can see EV, that is maximum level of valence band which is of the semiconductor. You can see conduction band, its lowest level EC, again of the semiconductor. In between them there is a band gap. And you can also see there is a donor energy level which is close to the conduction band. And just have a look at the diagram. The Fermi level in case of n-type semiconductor is close to the conduction band. So there is a difference. In case of p-type, it is close to the valence band, which also indicates that there is a transition or electron exchange between valence and acceptor. If you talk about n-type, there is an exchange of electrons between donor and conduction. So in case of n-type, the Fermi level is close to conduction. In case of p-type, it is close to valence. So this was about energy band diagrams of p-type and n-type semiconductors individually. Now let's see energy band diagrams of a p-n junction diode. Till now we have discussed individually how energy band of a p-type is drawn and how energy band of an n-type is drawn. Now what we are going to discuss, how energy band diagram of a p-n junction diode is made. Just keep one thing in mind. Individually we have already seen, but when we talk about a p-n junction, that means when we are fusing these two together, when we are fusing the p-type and n-type semiconductors together, that is when we are forming the junction. Please keep in mind that the Fermi levels should line up. What does that mean? Fermi levels should be in a straight line. We know that in case of a p-type material, Fermi level is close to valence. In case of an n-type material, it is close to conduction. That is true if they are separate. But if you are using these two materials to form a junction, the Fermi levels should be in one straight line. So just have a look at the diagram. The y-axis represents the energy, and along the x-axis there is a distance shown. So p region and n region. Now what happens when you are fusing them? Just have a look at the diagram. You can see that the Fermi level is in one straight line. Left portion shows Fermi level of p-type and right side it indicates n-type. But to make or to align these Fermi levels together, what has happened, you can just see that conduction and valence have shifted. You can see in the diagram that conduction of p-type is above the conduction of n-type. Clear? The instant when the junction is formed. So just understand, let's understand it a bit more elaborately. So in this diagram, you can see that at equilibrium the condition is shown. That means you can see what actually happens. To align the Fermi levels, you can see the black dotted horizontal line represents the Fermi level, which is one straight line. Because of junction making, because there is a golden rule that Fermi levels have to line up, you can see that the conduction band of p-type has shifted up. And can you just see in the diagram, there is a steep or there is a slope. This also indicates, the slope indicates the depletion layer. And a better understanding is that electrons from the n-type cannot climb the slope without anyone's help. Why? Because already a negative layer is formed on the p side, right? So this is a condition of a p-n junction diode when it is in equilibrium, represented by energy band diagram. Now let's understand the working of p-n junction diode with the help of energy band diagram, so you get a better picture why do we study energy band diagram of p-n junction diode. So first I'll be discussing reverse bias. So this is the condition of reverse bias. You can see in the animation here that electrons are not able to move. The steep or the slope is quite high. It's inclined or you can see it's very steep. And we all know that reverse bias is a connection in which the positive terminal of battery is connected to n-type and the negative terminal of battery is connected to p-type. So in this case, what happens? The majority carriers will move away from the junction. You can see here that there is no conduction. But now let's have a look at the forward bias. Now forward bias, you can clearly see that electrons from n side are moving to p side and they are recombining with the hole. You can see that electrons from n conduction are moving to p valence and hence you are getting current, right? And also the slope or the steep is decreased. So depletion layer reduces. According to energy band diagram, if I want to show, I will show that the steep has reduced and electrons are moving. Clear? So there is a recombination of electrons and holes. So this was understanding the working with the help of energy band diagram. Now let us move on to the next topic, that is IV characteristics. Let's see what IV characteristics are. The relation between voltage across the diode and the current flowing through it. So whatever is the potential developed across the diode with respect to current, we call this graph as the IV characteristics. IV characteristics in case of forward bias. So this is the forward bias connection. Forward bias connection means you can say that your diode is a closed circuit because we have connected the external source in such a way that our diode will behave as a closed circuit and we will be getting current. The diagram below also shows that the electrons are moving across, the majority carriers are moving towards the junction and the barrier is eliminated. Now let's have a look at the graph. So in this case, I will draw forward voltage along the x-axis, forward current in milliamperes along the y-axis. Because this is forward bias condition, we use the terminology forward voltage and forward current. Let's see how the graph varies. This is how the graph varies. You can see that the current was not increasing, but suddenly at a particular voltage, the current suddenly increases. This sudden or exponential increase occurs at threshold voltage. You get a sudden increase in current. So I can say that VTH or the threshold voltage is a voltage at which my barrier is also eliminated. Only then I can get current, right? Now let's have a look at threshold voltage values of silicon and germanium. So generally for silicon diodes, threshold voltage is around 0.7. For germanium diodes, it is around 0.3. What does that mean? The barrier is of 0.7 volt. So if there is a potential of 0.7 across the diode, the barrier is eliminated and you will get a sudden increase in current at 0.7 volt for a silicon diode. Clear? Now let's see what happens in case of reverse bias. So in case of reverse bias, these are the connections. You can see in the above diagram that the diode is an open circuit. Though the diode is connected in the circuit, it is connected in such a way that it behaves as an open circuit. Why? Because the majority carriers are moving away from the junction, so there is no flow of current, right? And thus, let's see how the graph varies. So this is the graph. In case of microamperes, you will get some amount of current because this is the current due to minority carriers, which is known as the leakage current. Generally, the value of leakage current for silicon is in nanoamperes and for germanium is in microamperes. So this is just an understanding of how PN junctions diodes IV characteristics in reverse bias look like. So today we have discussed what is energy band. We have seen how energy bands are formed. We have discussed energy bands of P-type and N-type semiconductors separately. Then we have seen how energy band diagram of a PN junction diode is denoted. We've also seen how working of PN junction diode can be explained with the help of energy band diagram. Then we have seen what are IV characteristics of a PN junction diode in forward and reverse bias. Hope you have understood all the topics I discussed very well today. Thank you.